Hello and welcome to part 2 of On the Road Again. Not Willie Nelson, but travelling on the road again on the Spyder, and in the last part I had set out from Goulburn towards Marulan, so I'm still on that road. This is a Hume Highway you can see here, travelling north towards Sydney. It's the main arterial road between Sydney and Melbourne, and is a dual carriageway all the way from basically, I think, the Harbour Bridge, or certainly once you get on the M5 to Melbourne. So it's a much better trip than it used to be, and lots of service centres on the Victorian side of the border. There's service centres from Sydney. There's one at Pheasant's Nest, there's Sutton Forest, there's Marulan, then there's Yass, then there's Gundagai, Holbrook, Coolac, I think, is the actual Coolac. There is a service centre on the highway. Holbrook is just off the highway. And then there, I think, is a service centre probably just before Albury, and certainly one just over the border in Wodonga. And then they're pretty regular on the the Victorian side of the border. So if you're travelling down that road, there are lots of places to stop and refresh, get a drink, get some lunch, whatever. If you're driving an electric vehicle and heading south, most of those service centres also have charges for electric vehicles. Now, I can't tell you how many there are, and I can't vouch for the condition they're in. Some of the times they work and sometimes they don't, is what I understand, but I know that they do have them. Anyway, we're heading north, so we needn't worry about that for the moment. Or I'm heading north, and I'm about to turn off the Hume Highway in this video and go out towards Bungonia, which is a small village about 30 k's east of Marulan. It's famous for, just out of the town is at Bungonia National Park, and a place called the Bungonia Look Down, because it looks down into what I think is the Shoalhaven River Valley. In the last video I was talking to you about the various features of the Spyder, and one thing that I forgot to mention was to do with reverse gear. The Spyders have a reverse gear. It's a reverse that is part of the transmission, and so it's a full functioning reverse, just like a reverse in your car. So you put your car in reverse and it'll go as fast as you put your foot down on the accelerator. The reverse on the Spyders does the same thing. It goes as fast as you can open the throttle for. As opposed to my only other experience with a bike with reverse gear is the Honda Goldwing, which I have ridden a couple of times, and it has an electrically operated reverse, which is somehow not part of the transmission but separate from the transmission. I don't understand the engineering of it, but what I know is that you press a couple of buttons on the handlebar cluster and engage reverse gear, and reverse gear can never go faster than 5 kilometres an hour, and that's so that if you happen to accidentally grab the throttle, there won't be a surge and the bike won't suddenly lurch backwards and topple over or whatever. Now with the Spyder, of course, you will go at full speed, but it's not likely to topple over because it's a three-wheeler. Anyway, so that was the last feature I want to talk about. In this video I want to talk a little bit about motorcycle safety again, and I know I've said that in a lot of videos lately, but I don't think you can ever say it too often, and you certainly can't overstate it. A couple of things have happened to me lately that have made me think a little bit more about this. I like to run, and I like to run early in the mornings. When I say early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning is when I like to run, and you might have seen some of my running videos lately, and you might have seen one of my motorcycling videos where I set off ready to go on a run to a place where I could park the bike and start my run. And at all of those times, it was quite dark. I think the motorcycling segment of one of them I called Riding in the Rain, because it was very, very light drizzle, but you could see it was quite dark. So visibility is the big issue here, and visibility is what I want to talk about as an aspect of motorcycle safety. And visibility works two ways. That is, the motorcyclist has to do everything they can to make themselves visible. I conceded then that you can't do anything about the physical size of your bike. If you've got a cafe racer or you've got a sports bike or whatever, it's built to a certain size and you can't make it any bigger. A Cruiser's a big bike, a Spyder's a big bike. Some of the Tours are fairly big bikes, so they are, you hope, fairly visible. all bikes have permanently lit headlights. So as soon as you turn on the ignition and get the bike rolling, as soon as you start the engine, the headlight comes on. So that is so that the drivers coming towards you will see a headlight and realise there's something, a vehicle of some sort coming towards them. Bikes, I guess, have the required number of reflectors on the forks and at the back of the bike, and to comply with Australian design and registration rules. But if you could add some more, I guess that would be a helpful thing. I've talked about visibility in terms of the clothing that motorcyclists wear, making it bright, making sure it has reflective piping, make sure that your helmet is a bright colour. And as I said in a previous video, apparently white helmets are the ones, the riders who have white helmets have the least amount of accidents. Now, I'm not sure what the correlation is between those two things, but nevertheless, it seems to be the result of some study in New Zealand that suggests that that is the case. So there are things that motorcyclists can do, and I'm sure that most motorcyclists do those things. You can't disable the headlight coming on your bike. You can choose the clothing and you can choose the colour scheme and have it all blacked out or not have it blacked out or whatever. But for the most part, I'm sure that most motorcyclists are doing the best they can to make themselves visible. Now, I said about running in the dark and also riding down to where I started my run one day in the dark and in the rain, and I set off towards the river just down from my house one day as a place to start a run, and it was quite foggy, and I had some difficulty not so much in seeing where I was going, although the fog, it wasn't that thick, but at least, you know, it was foggy, but vehicles coming the other way, coming towards me, some of them had their lights on, but some didn't. And this is the other aspect of visibility. Now, I'm sure that most of the drivers in those cars without their lights on thought, I can see where I'm going. The fog isn't that thick and I'm only going 40 or 50 or whatever it is. I think it's 50 on that section of road. So I don't need the lights on and it's not a problem. But the issue there isn't just about you in your car. The issue is about other people coming towards you or from the opposite direction being able to see you before you're on top of them or before you're close to them. On a road like the one I was riding on at the time, which is a single lane each way and has some markings on it and is lit by street lights, that may not necessarily be a problem. But on some of this road here, for example, on a country road, even though it does have a marking down it, and it has markings on the edges of the road, it has no lighting, obviously, because it's a country road. And in foggy conditions, you can see there are some bends and curves here, and seeing reasonable distance in front of you and anticipating a vehicle coming towards you from the opposite direction can be a tricky thing around a blind curve. It's made even worse in foggy conditions or overcast or dark conditions if the drivers of cars don't have their lights on. Now we're into autumn, as I said in the last video. Daylight saving is about to end, and so that means the nights are going to get darker more quickly. And that means that dusk period, just before the sun goes completely down, when it's sort of dark and overcast, but there is still a little bit of natural light left, makes it more difficult to see things on the road coming towards you, going in the opposite direction. So it's important for drivers to think, well, there are other people on the road who depend on being able to see me and how they react and how they drive and how they manage their vehicle. And yes, they should keep to their side of the centre lane. And in most cases, I'm sure, whether they're car drivers or motorcyclists, they do that. But it is difficult to do that. It's not difficult to do that, but it is made more difficult if the driver of the car doesn't have their lights on. Now, I'm aware in many cases that cars these days have daytime running lights, and I'm also aware that many cars have automatic headlight settings, so as soon as you turn the car on, the headlights come on, and when you turn the car off, they turn off. Not all cars have that, and cars perhaps a decade or so older, or maybe a decade or more older, they don't have them, and people routinely, even for those who have auto lighting, routinely turn it off because they are concerned about, I don't know, running down the battery or something, or they're concerned about getting out of the car and forgetting to turn their headlights off, coming out later on with a flat battery and so on. So making sure that you can be seen, visibility for the rider of the motorcycle is a critical thing. You must be able to be seen by other people on the road. But other people on the road must be able to be seen by you as well. So it's important if you're driving a car or even another motorcycle, but especially if you're driving a car, to, in dark conditions in the early morning when the sun hasn't fully come up yet, it might be light enough for you to see where you're going, but it's not necessarily light enough for other people to see you from a distance and take appropriate action in terms of their speed and their position on the road and so on. So it's important in the early morning when you're still waiting for the sun to come up and to make sure the day is in full sunlight, and also in the evening when the sun is going down but hasn't completely gone down. It's important for you to have your headlights on and make sure that other drivers can see you. We're not asking for, that is motorcyclists, aren't asking you to do something special or for special treatment. We're just asking that you make that point of saying, well, I want to be visible. I want other people to be able to see me as well as for me to be able to see where I'm going. And when you see those signs on the highways that say, look out for motorcyclists, that's one of the things that they are suggesting that you do. Keep your headlights on, keep your daytime running lights on, so that the motorcyclist that's coming towards you can see you. This road we're on here is as I said, the Bungonia Road, and you can see for the most part it's in pretty good condition. I must say some of these roads that I hadn't ridden for a while, they've had some pretty major repair work done to them. There's still things that need to be doing. You can see the cracks in the road in some places and patches on patches, and that sort of filler they used to fill minor cracks in the road. There's some examples of that, but for the most part the road has markings down the middle, which is always very helpful. It has those white posts on either side of the road, which again are very helpful to mark this side of the road, especially at night. And some sections of this road even have those little, I think they're called rumble strips, that are on the side of on the edges of the road just before the shoulder. I think they're a very good idea, because if you happen to be getting drowsy or wandering off your line, the rumble strip will obviously make a noise and wake you up and alert you to the fact that you are wandering off the road or deviating a bit. There are places here where you can see the tree line is reasonably back from the road, so it's an open. You can see that it's an open space across the width of the road, but in other places the tree line is quite close to the road and casts a shadow over the road, and that can be one of those, again, issues of visibility. That if you're coming out of a shadow like that, if you're just coming, it's not always necessarily easy for someone coming in the opposite direction to see you and to be aware that you're there because you're in the shadow. Good to see those safety barriers on the edges of the road where it's appropriate to have them, and other features like that, water being able to drain off the road into those table drains. Sometimes they're concrete, sometimes they're just rock ballast that'll help get the water off the road and then slow it down so it doesn't create a lot of erosion. Well, I think that's all I wanted to talk about in relation to motorcycle safety and visibility. So I'll leave you to enjoy the scenery for the next couple of minutes of this video. And if you have any comments or any feedback or anything you'd like to say about anything I've said, then please do so in the comments section when the video is posted. And when I become aware of them, I will respond appropriately. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video and the commentary. If not, I hope you've at least enjoyed the scenery. And I'll come back to you with it on the road part 3 fairly shortly.